content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely it's really
just I love stories like this because it's
people just so scared to death. That's a real thing.
there are countless stories bad enough. You shouldn't fuck with.
Right, and the JFK assassination on the limo.
Real.
Good evening, everybody, from the Mistake on the Lake, deep within the Great American Rust Belt. I bid you all good morning, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be, across the nation, around the world. Streaming live, faster than a subatomic particle. I don't know. I'm giving you the little George Knapp, but I can't do it. I'm not as good as him. Anyways, this is T3TV. I'm your host, John Budzinski, alongside Daniel, Stephen Rady.
What is up?
And Stephen Buddha Gibson.
It's the new year. New year, new me.
Yeah. So Buddha's not going to be swearing at all. He gave it up for 2022.
He gave it up for Lent.
Yeah.
That'll last this episode and it's going to end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll last the introduction.
Buddha, it's been 6 days and you're already man of the year.
Well, shit, I mean, the bar is set pretty low.
That's it. You gave up swearing and it's too late now.
Well, man of the year can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's true. The Ubermensch. How are you guys doing? How was your new year? How was your holidays? We took a couple of weeks off, kind of planned / unplanned, and so it was some much needed time off. Though I think the last couple of weeks of the year I was burning the candle at both ends, and so a much needed break, and I'm excited to be back and doing this with you guys on Thursdays. But how was your guys' holiday?
Well, it was uneventful. Not too much, man. I didn't really do a whole lot. I just basically stayed in both holidays because COVID was going crazy with everybody, and everyone I literally knew was sick or knew someone that was sick. So kind of just stayed around, worked on some music, did some hikes, and that was it.
You nearing close to a release?
Well, I mean, it's going to be looking at like March still. Definitely March, like I had said originally. Yeah, it's not going to be any sooner than March. How about you, Buddha?
Yeah.
I actually just hit up one of my buddies about recording a solo for me, so I'm waiting to hear back from him.
Nice.
Rob?
I think Rob's just got too much shit going on. I hit him up a little while ago, but I know he's busy as fuck all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we tracked drums for it, and that turned out pretty good.
Actually, I was supposed to have Tony come by, and he was going to record some backups, and then he got sick, and then so we put it off, and I think the following week was Christmas or something. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And then, everything else entailed from that point on.
Right.
The way it's looking, you and me are going to get our songs both out around the same time.
You guys,
and then we can dock.
It's crazy. Like, I saw this picture the other day of all these albums that came out like within, I think, 4 months of each other in '91. It was like, what was it? The Black Album, Guns N' Roses, Nevermind,
Pearl Jam.
I think Soundgarden was on there. And then,
Soundgarden. Yep.
But it was just like insane, like all of these classic
Metallica
records. Yeah.
Oh, you said that one. Yeah.
Yeah, the Black Album. All came out around the same 4 months. But that'll be this year's 2022. You guys will be on it.
Yeah.
30 years from now, we'll be going back and being like, these two morons talked about their song.
And they both, yep.
So. I was telling Natalie, I would like to actually put together like a whole album. Would be sweet to put together this year. But it's just, man, you know how it is.
It's really hard to get people together.
It's really hard to get people together, and it's really hard to do it all yourself. Like, it's just so much work.
Yeah, and I mean, especially like, it's funny. I was talking to somebody, was it yesterday or the day before, but just like how, how much things change between like when you're 25 and 35, and how like just, I don't think nothing prepared me for like the amount of like pressure I would have put on myself and the responsibilities that I have. And so, when you try to do, hobbies outside of just your normal, day-to-day stuff, it becomes really hard and really tiring.
Right.
And, I mean, I think, and that's honestly kind of why we've been doing this the way we've been doing it, is because it just makes it easy for us to just do it from our houses. And, we get together, 10, 15 minutes beforehand, and this is the time we spend together, during the week. So yeah, I can't imagine, doing a whole record by myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Buddha, I wanted to do the same thing too a couple times. Like, and I don't even have an excuse because I don't use any musicians at all. I'm doing everything by myself. But this song I'm working on, I've had the first 2 verses done for like 3 months. And the final verse of this song, I just cannot figure out how to finish it. And I work on it for about 20 minutes, and I get pissed off, and I'm done. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm not working on it anymore. And I'm literally stuck in like limbo because I can't finish the 3rd verse.
I think the part that kills me is like I enjoy the collaboration aspect. So I don't always want to do stuff on my own. You know what I mean? Like I like feeding off of other people, and
I'm a collaborator by nature as well. But I think that's why we're drummers.
You're not responsible for anything that anybody cares about. But it's just,
I'm like, I want to be the loudest in the mix. Turn that kick drum up.
Right.
You're like, dude, it's all the way fucking up. I'm like, not loud enough. Compress it.
Yeah, that's just because you're fucking deaf.
That's true.
But it's just, like I was saying, like to try to get everyone together, or even like just one other person together, is like, what are you doing 6 weeks from now? Because everybody has their own shit going on, And it sucks because like I'll hit a stride where like I'll make a ton of progress, and like everybody's schedule's on, so it's like boom, 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 and then you're still waiting on that one part, and you just for what like for instance, Tony got sick, and then I got sick, or holidays came up, or Rob's got stuff going on, and it's just like, fuck,
Right.
But I would love to actually put together a whole album this year. That's the plan.
You still need
all
a
originals
name.
or covers and originals?
Probably covers and originals.
Yeah.
The Buddha Project. Let's make it
the Dan Rady experience.
Nice.
All right. Well, let's get into a couple of quick news articles, and then I got a story tonight that I came across, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a good one. So, real quick, let's see here. In China, McDonald's testing exercise bikes at 2 McDonald's locations in China. McDonald's China confirmed that the company is testing in-store exercise bikes after video taken inside one of the eateries went viral online. Footage emerged recently on social media showing a woman sitting on a stationary bike while eating a hamburger at McDonald's. And the company confirmed the bikes have been installed as seats at locations in the Guangdong and Shanghai. So you can get a hamburger and ride the exercise bike at the same time.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Counterproductive.
Well, maybe
right. That's exactly
neutral.
it.
You gotta have to bike for 45 minutes to just burn off like a part of the fries. But yeah,
America could definitely use some of those though, for sure. But you know what? Nobody would use them, so they would just sit there and rot.
What if they use those to power the restaurant too, though? Like,
no, they would just find them in the river, just like all the scooters that they leave around downtown.
Yeah, so bad.
I think that shit is hilarious, since they have GPS tracking on them, and they just found a bunch of them like in the lake.
Because you can't do nothing with them without a credit card, right, or
No,
whatever.
fucking Cleveland. No, I think though. Well, it depends on which ones there are. I don't know how it actually works, but I see them all over the place.
I've
Like
seen
I
a
even
couple
see
people
'em-
riding them, and I just got annoyed.
I even see them like they'll be like sitting in the middle of the sidewalk on Tremont. I'm like, how far do they go? Like they're all over.
Well, yeah, and how do they
when I-
recharge?
I don't know. The fucking
That's a
idiots
very
in
quick
Tremont,
question.
they ride them around in the road.
I hate that area of town.
Yeah, I despise it.
Okay. This one here is for you, Buddha. I don't know if you saw this. Texas lifter sets new world record with 1,125-pound bench press.
I think I saw the video of it.
Yeah.
Jeez. Wow.
Texas weightlifter set a new world record when he bench pressed 1,125 pounds at a powerlifting competition. Tiny Meeker, 50, a 26-time world champion powerlifter, bench pressed 1,125 pounds.
He's
at the
50 years
IP
old?
Yeah, 50 years old, 26-time champion.
I'm gonna look it up and see if it's the video that I saw.
Yeah. Meeker, who runs the Metro Flex Houston gym in Kingwood, Texas, with strength nutritionist Nathan Payton, said his latest accomplishment is also one of the most meaningful to him. This one was a lot more emotional because of what I went through. I tore my labrum, messed up my hips, my hamstring, my knees, and my neck. Meeker was then hospitalized with arterial fibrillation in 2019. And so, to me, it was unfinished business. I wanted to be the first guy and still wanted to be the first guy to bench 1,200 pounds. Meeker has also said he's planning to attempt to beat that feat in 2022.
Let's see. I think this is with the bench shirt, though, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know, but holy crap. I mean, that's a lot of freaking weight. 1,200 pounds. Well, what's the most you can bench, Buddha?
Not that.
So what are you at?
I don't know this. Oh, dude, I haven't lifted heavy since I fucked my feet up. Not even 300. Not even that.
Really?
No.
Yeah. What can you squat?
I haven't done anything heavy. The highest I was around like 430. So
That's still a lot of weight.
Yeah, that's impressive, though.
let's see. Yeah, I don't know. This video won't load, but this is not the video that I saw. Another dude that is fucking remarkably strong is Julius Maddox, and that guy, he's like hovering right around 800 raw. So that's nothing. No bench shirt, no nothing. And there's another guy, I don't remember his name. He's like Iranian or something. If you saw him, you'd be like, I know who that is. He is a fucking monster.
Huh. All right. This story here got another one. I don't know if you guys saw this one. Was actually in the mainstream media, which is kind of funny. But landmark big potato monument vandalized on New Year's Day. Though officials had high hopes for a big potato statue in Cyprus, someone had other plans for the unusual monument. The 16-foot tall sculpture shaped like a potato was chopped down at around 3:30 a.m. on the first day of the year, causing about $5,400 in damages. Nicknamed the Big Potato, the monument was erected in the town of Zyla. I can't even pronounce it. In October to honor the nation's staple crop. It immediately went viral on Twitter as tourists lined up to take pictures beside the sculpture. But hours after ringing in the new year, unknown perpetrators vandalized the attraction. Police received complaints on Saturday morning regarding the Big Potato. Former Cyprus ambassador to the Britain Europides compared the monument to other national beacons like the Eiffel Tower and the Statue of Liberty. So it was just a giant statue of a potato. It's just on
Never
the side
heard
of
that
it.
one.
Yeah. If you look at pictures of this thing, it looks kind of like a corn dog too. So yeah, somebody took down the potato. All right.
That's unfortunate. That was one of those offensive statues that needed removed. Somebody was like, no carbs.
Keto. It's all keto.
Oh man, that thing looks. I'm not going to say anything. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going with.
That doesn't look like a friggin' potato to me.
Oh Buddha.
Ooh, that is offensive. You're right.
All right. This one, SpaceX Starlink internet service has more than 145,000 users so far. I actually kind of looked into this because I was interested to see, but Elon Musk's SpaceX on Thursday gave an update on its Starlink internet service as the company launched more satellites into orbit. SpaceX engineer Jesse Anderson said during a webcast the company's first launch of the year that Starlink now has more than 145,000 users in 25 countries around the world. That's up from 140,000 in early November, but represents a slowdown in user growth. Let's see here. I looked it up, and you got to pay for the equipment, but then it was like $100 a month, but it was like unlimited 5G, I believe. So I don't, didn't seem like it was totally worth it to me at the time. But I don't know. I always find out what he's doing pretty interesting. So
back to that lift, because the video finally loaded. That it is an equipped lift. I'm not downplaying it by any means, but it's actually sweet that dude actually had like a real range of motion, except he's not like those fuckwads that arch like the Exorcist and then get a 1-inch range of motion. So that was actually pretty sweet. That guy's fucking massive.
Dude, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
there's a dude at the gym when I was going to, he benched around like 755. And I mean, that's fucking impressive to see, add another 400 pounds.
How do these people, how do they have that strength? I mean, I know you work out and all that stuff, but that's
drugs. A lot of drugs help. No, it's technique. You know what I mean? It's not only is it just being big and fucking strong, it's a very, like, weightlifting is a very technical thing. It's not just like throw the fucking weight around.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Starlink baseline, you got to pay for the hardware. That's $499, and then the service is $99 a month.
Oh, and then the buy-in is $500.
Yeah, to get the equipment, but then you own it. So,
it works from anywhere though? That's the point, right?
I believe so, but I mean, it's still, you got to love this satellite dish around everywhere.
How big is it?
I mean, it's not tiny. From the picture, to me, it looks like it's comparable to like something from the Dish Network, or DirecTV. Which, are they still installing satellite dishes for TV?
No,
I don't know. So. I doubt it.
Yeah,
I don't see them on houses anymore, hardly.
Yeah. All right, Dan, this one's for you. I don't know if you saw this today. This is off Engadget. The first edition of the Chevy Silverado EV sold out in 12 minutes.
Yeah. I didn't see... Ford and General Motors are starting their but they're starting their competition here between the electronic trucks. The Ford F-150 electronic vehicle has been back ordered for I don't know how long, and I'm actually shocked by that. I did not think pickup trucks of all things would be selling out, electronic pickup trucks I'm talking about, selling like this and having this much interest this quick in them. I'm actually shocked at that.
It says soon after GM formally revealed the Chevy Silverado EV at CES, it emerged that $105,000 first edition is already sold out. In fact, according to GM CEO Mary Barra, yeah, all of those vehicles were snapped up in just 12 minutes. Barra told Bloomberg that the truck variant is expected to be available, or the work truck variant is expected to be available in 2023, and GM plans to start delivering the RST first edition that fall. The regular RST starts at $39,000, though it won't arrive until summer of 2024. So, yeah. But I mean, like, did they do a pre-sale based upon just supply chain? Because of the chips?
There was 7 trucks available.
Yeah. I mean,
exactly. Part of the supply chain, and also, I mean, they're not going to make 500,000 trucks, and they don't at this point. They still don't know where people are going to be on the electric vehicles. Yes, those did sell out very quick, but it's still there's still how do I want to say it? An unknown factor. So just like with anything, they can only build so many. They have to have a certain part of the factory set up to build a brand new vehicle while they're still building a current vehicle. So there's not a lot of space available for that until they do the complete transfer over to the next generation truck or vehicle that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's the interest. You know, they have to see what the interest level is. That's the reason they only build so many right off the bat like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Is the biggest reason.
Everybody that bought one of those trucks doesn't actually need a truck for a truck.
I agree 1,000% with you, Buddha. Same thing with the Hummer. That new Hummer coming out.
It's like those fucking idiots that'll spend $60,000 and get a laid out fucking Denali, and then they're like, "Don't get mud in my truck."
Right. And you know what it is, really, and I've been told this by certain people, by other people, that for the most part nowadays, people want big SUVs. One of the reasons SUVs and pickup trucks are so popular is because people like sitting up higher. They like sitting up, especially a lot of these alpha males in their trucks. They want to sit up and look down at people and look around and be like, I'm the big tough guy in my truck. And like you said, Buddha, they don't even use it for anything at all. They don't even put anything in the bed of the damn truck. They just want to look tough in their truck and be up and sit up, ahead of everyone.
That's why Buddha bought his.
That's right, dude. I'm a little guy, so I need to look.
And then he
fucking
wrapped
tough.
all of his tools in leopard print tape.
I did. No, it was fire. It was fire zebra tape.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I saw the potato.
Yeah. What do you think?
The headline to the one article is "Penis-like potato statue toppled 2 months after erection."
Well, there you have it, folks.
Yep.
All right.
Takes care of that one.
That's the news for tonight. A little bit of strange, a little bit of factual, a little bit of business, a little bit of automotive. Dan, what do you got for tonight?
Well, yeah, mine will be this will work out good because you're doing a story too, John. So this is going to be really quick. It's not even a story. It's just kind of a retrospect.
Should I cue you?
Say what? Oh, yeah.
All right.
And I forgot about that too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks since I've heard it, so.
I just got done watching it, episode 2, right before I came on.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Nice. Anyway, so this is just a retrospect. I figure it's the year 2022. We're going to go back 50 years to 1972. And I just wanted to just kind of take a look at the luxury market and what the luxury cars look like back then. I was going to, obviously due to some technical limitations, I was going to show some photos, but people can look up the photos and easily Google each car I'm talking about just to see what it looks like. But I wanted to look at the luxury car market back then. I've always been a fan of luxury cars. I've never cared much about sports cars, never been my thing. I've always liked the Cadillacs, Lincolns, Chryslers, things like that. And I just thought it was really interesting to see what the world looked like. Well, not the world, but what cars look like in 72 compared to what we have now. So now when you think... Question.
So
yeah, go ahead.
When you say that you're a fan of sport or not, sports cars weren't really anything, is it more about... Were you more interested on what was going on in the interior versus like the mechanical side of it, or did the engine and the mechanics, did that play into your interest as well?
No, the interest was because your luxury cars always offered, even back then, they always offered the cutting edge in technology, and I've always loved technology in cars.
Gotcha.
And and they're just, and I like the size of the big cars. You have this big giant car around you. Like my first car was a big giant Cadillac, and I just always liked that because there's just more size around you. It's a better riding car. I don't have a need for speed. I do like going fast, but it doesn't matter to me. I like the technology, and luxury cars always have the comfort and technology always over sports cars, and that's always been the case.
Right.
For that. But really, and that's what I'm kind of going to touch base on a little bit. We're going to just talk about 3 cars. So nowadays, when you think of luxury, most people think, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, to some extent Tesla. On the upper realms, you think Bentley and Rolls-Royce, but those are out of most people's, you can't afford a $500,000 Rolls-Royce. Most people, it's like a 1% of the people that can afford those kind of cars. But, and to some extent, Cadillac Escalade and Lincoln Navigator, those are still considered, luxury SUVs. But back in 1972, you had 3 cars that were sitting at the top. Mercedes-Benz wasn't even in the discussion, barely. Same thing with BMW. Obviously, there was no Lexus, no Infiniti, and of course, no Tesla. So in 72, you had 3 cars. You had the Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham. You had the Lincoln Continental 4-door, the 4-door version. And you had a Chrysler Division, which a lot of the older people will know the name. You guys may or may not have ever heard of it. There was Chrysler had its own division, which was called the Imperial. And the Imperial basically went head-to-head with Cadillac and Lincoln. It wasn't as popular. Some people don't think it was the best looking out of all of them, but it was there. It was a flagship luxury car. And just to kind of go what things look like back then and how they are now. So now a car that, and I'm a dork when it comes to measurements of cars. I really am. So nowadays, a car that's about 208 inches long is considered gigantic. Okay, it's huge for today's standards. Back in the early 70s, these 3 cars, the average length was 230 inches long. Okay, the average length. So just to put that in perspective, Chevy's. I'm sorry?
It's almost another yard on the car.
Yeah, it's about 19 foot long. To put that in perspective, a Chevy Suburban that you see driving around right now, you look at it and go, man, that thing is huge. Well, these cars were about 5 inches longer than a new Chevy Suburban, just to put that in perspective. They were wide as hell. They were almost 80 inches wide. They had wheelbases. The Cadillac actually beat them all out. It had a wheelbase of 133 inches long. So I've told you this before, center cap to center cap. That's what your wheelbase is. And luxury cars always advertise long wheelbases because what it does is it's the difference between axle to axle. It gives you a hell of a lot more leg room for the backseat passengers. And of course, in a luxury car, you want to have a long, giant back seat, right? Leg room and everything, more room in the car. So that's why wheelbase is so important. But these cars all had around I think the Cadillac had 133 and the other ones had like 127-inch wheelbase. So they're all, again, and compared to today's cars, that's gigantic. Most cars nowadays are lucky to have 123, 124-inch wheelbase. These vehicles had the most amazing interiors that you would ever imagine. Technology wasn't there. I won't even get involved in technology because 1972, you didn't have navigation, you didn't have heated seats, you didn't have, night vision, all the features that your new luxury cars have with no problem. That stuff wasn't available back then, obviously. You still had power windows, you had, which was an amazing new feature at the time, anti-lock brakes had come out was available on all 3 of these cars. It wasn't called anti-lock brakes, by the way. General Motors called it somebody called it SureTrack. General Motors called it TrackMaster. Sounds like an exercise machine. But it worked in the same way. It was still anti-lock brakes, but it just wasn't anywhere near as sophisticated as the systems we have today. But that was really one of the big options available on those cars back then, as far as if you want to get involved with technology. You had power trunk pull down on the Cadillac, which you would shut the trunk and a motor would pull it down automatically. And it's a luxury feature. It gives you that like, look at my car. Look what my car does. It puts the trunk down automatically. Power seats, of course, power windows, cruise control, that stuff was available. But the biggest thing was the interiors. These cars were, and even my 80 Cadillacs that I had, they had that, in Buddha, you might remember driving around, it had those pillowy seats where you felt like you were driving around on a couch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Yep, remember that? That velour, what they call velour fabric. And that is something that nowadays in luxury, well, first off, it just doesn't exist. It hasn't existed for many, many years, couple decades, where now it's all about firm seating and firm handling, and the American car companies trying to go after the Germans and imitate them. And we've lost our way when it comes to that. And there's obviously arguments on both ends of that. Some people will say those old giant boats were floaty cars. You'd literally almost get seasick inside the thing because it would just float over the road. it would take in the bumps like no car today can, because of the way that they were built with those giant metal frames, and the frames how they were built. And I never got to drive one of the 70s beasts. I never drove in one. I never owned one. But they are huge cars, even compared to what I had in the 80s, or not in the 80s, but my 80s Cadillacs. They were 221 inches long, which that's pretty damn big for today's standards. But compared to those cars, it's it's not going to say it's small, but it's mid-size compared to those cars. And really, I just wanted to talk about, and also, of course, these cars had V8s, huge V8 engines. I think the Cadillac had a 7.7 472-inch engine. 472 cubic inch engine, which again, by today's standards, is humongous. V8s are pretty much dead anyway, so hardly any car has a V8. And 72 was an interesting year because it was right before the government stepped in and did their stupid shit and strangled all the cars with federal mandated devices. That the Cadillac converters were introduced around this time. All kind of emission controls, smog pumps. All this stuff was pushed onto these cars within the next couple years after 72. So even sports cars were garbage. Everything was garbage by the mid-70s. I know we've talked about that before. But when you look at these vehicles, I don't know if you pulled up any of the pictures of these cars, but you can see an elegance that just doesn't exist anymore with luxury. It is completely gone. The amount of, and it's ironic in my opinion, and because the amount of elegance that you can get in a car that looks like these cars nowadays is a Rolls Royce or a Bentley, which again costs $400,000 or $500,000. The American car companies haven't made a vehicle like these in many, many, many decades, and it's sad. It's truly sad. And I know a lot of people would maybe disagree, but I know there's probably millions of people, especially some of the old timers, that would definitely agree with me on this. That the way the luxury car looked then compared to the way the luxury car looks now it's night and day. But it's not just about the looks of it. It's not just about, obviously they look different. Obviously there's more technology. It's what the car meant and the personality that those cars had back then. And I think it's a lost art. I think it is. I want to get one. I actually been looking. I can't do anything now because a little tiny place I live in a condo. I can only fit really one car in the garage. I can't have two cars. So at some point though, when I get a new place, I'm looking to buy one of these late 60s, early 70s, either, Imperials or Cadillacs, just to have, because I want an old boat like that, But really, this was just a retro.
When did you start seeing digital speedometers in cars?
So, when did they start coming out?
Coming out.
So the first electronic trip computer is what they called it, came out actually for Cadillac, was 1978. That was when it was first mass produced. The very first digital one was, I believe, on an Aston Martin. Aston Martins are extremely, extremely expensive cars. So they did have it was 76, believe it or not, that Aston Martin, whatever you want to call it, Aston Martin had a digital dash. But then as far as a mass-produced car, the Cadillac Seville, and you can look this up. If you look up 1978 Cadillac Seville trip computer, you will actually see it had a big keyboard in the dash, and it would tell you things like, estimated time of arrival, what your engine temperature was at, what your oil temperature was at, how much fuel was in the tank. It had a digital speedometer. Of course, it looks very, very antiquated because it's, like you said, it was one of the first ones around. What's funny about that is the price of it was $900 in 1978. And most of your Cadillac buyers at the time were elderly. They didn't want to deal with technology. They didn't want none of that shit. So the option didn't prove, it was very expensive to add to the car. That's maybe $4,000, $3,000 now, $4,000, something like that probably in today's money. But it wasn't a popular feature. So Cadillac had it for 2 years and then they discontinued it, only to bring out a digital dash again about a year later. But they made it a lot cheaper. They took away the whole trip computer thing. The 1980s is when digital dashboards really exploded. That's when all your cars offered them. Sports cars, luxury cars. and they became vacuum fluorescent, so they became a lot more, readable and more durable than that liquid crystal display, thing that you see there on that. If you looked it up,
Yeah, I did.
you see. Yeah. So, that's when it became more and more, popular, definitely in the 80s, because the 80s was the digital uprising for sure. So, but yeah, I just wanted to do a retrospect on these cars and, what they were and what I think of them and how things have changed so much, and how Cadillac and Lincoln, I didn't even bring this up. Imperial was discontinued in 75. So the Imperial name died off. Chrysler, they tried to resurrect the name a couple times and it didn't do any good. Imperial's been gone for, I think, since 93, because they brought it back for a couple years in the 90s and got rid of it again. And Cadillac and Lincoln, they're former shells of themselves. From what they were back then, if you wanted a luxury car, that's what you bought. And, other than the Navigator and the Escalade, those are nice vehicles. Yeah, they're very expensive, but there's very little elegance in those vehicles, and I don't think there's really very much elegance in any of these cars anymore that you saw back in the day with those three cars. The most Cadillac is doing, they're going electric here soon. That was a Consumer Electronics show, I think, that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Cadillac showed a ridiculous, absolutely pathetic, ridiculous looking, some kind of pod type vehicle that you just basically get in and it takes you where you have to go. It doesn't have a steering wheel. There's no pedals. There's no nothing. It's a concept, of course. It's not coming out anytime soon. But if that's where cars are going, man, I don't want to be around for it. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, it's called the Cadillac Inner Space, or what's it?
Cadillac reveals PAV pod concept. That's a toaster-shaped party bus.
Yeah, isn't that lovely?
Apparently, Chrysler made 2006 Impala or Imperial concept.
Yes,
and
correct.
It looks like a fucking 300.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I knew all about that. Yeah, the concept went nowhere. It basically was just more. It was more kind of a design exercise for the next generation 300. Is really all it was. They kind of had interest in the Imperial name, but it didn't. Apparently, it didn't fly.
Did you see the Cadillac? They introduced a one-person drone again, or one-person drone?
No, I didn't see that one.
Reveals future focus and not autonomous pod and one-person drone. Yeah, it's got like two like fan blades, but yeah, it's supposed to be able to fly. So
yeah,
there you have it.
There you have it. Compare that, what you're looking at, the old Fleetwood, compared to a pod that you get into and it drives you somewhere. Yeah. I'm not impressed with that. I love technology, but it's way, like I've said before, it's going way too far.
I don't think people can really understand, like, the road is two-dimensional when you, like, you're still traveling through three-dimensional space, but, you've got forward, backwards, and side to side. You can't, right. I don't think, like, your average person can juggle that and another, like, up and down too. You know what I mean? Like, it takes people years of flight school to learn that stuff, Yeah,
right.
And so I don't know if that's ever going to really be a thing,
I hope it's not in my lifetime, at least, because that would be just, yeah.
And that's why they're trying to automate all this stuff. But again, yeah.
And there's limitations. There's going to be, again, with the autonomous driving, there's all kind of limitations that are going to be in here, in place of what these cars can and can't do. And you're changing the whole dynamic of what driving was. Driving was, you got behind the wheel of the damn car, you started it, you drove where you had to go, and how the dynamics are changing to where, you don't have to do anything anymore. Just get in the car and it'll take you where you have to go. That's not a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing. We've talked about, like, Buddha made up a great point the one time. Like, if you're behind the wheel and the car's taking you somewhere, where you're drunk, you had too much to drink, and you had some kind of medical emergency where the car's going to take you somewhere. Something like that I can see. But, where it does get ridiculous where you can just jump in the back seat and a car's just driving itself somewhere.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
So
who knows where it's
But
going.
that was my story, not story, but that was just kind of a retrospect. I just wanted to I was going to show photos of the cars and everything, but obviously people can look them up, but just wanted to kind of go over that and see what, people thought of that, and, see what the world was like with cars back then, luxury cars back then. Roll the end credits.
Yeah. All right, Buddha, what do you got?
I'm still looking at some of these cars. They take me back. I've worked on a handful of older cars like these, and
luxury cars.
Just just older cars in general.
My grandfather had a Cordoba.
Oh yeah, Cordoba. I remember those. I don't remember them, but I know what you're talking about. That's the Chrysler, the 2-door.
Yep. My dad sold it right before I moved into that house.
Wow.
That was almost going on 10 years now. Over 10. My God. Buddha, what do you got tonight?
All right, so this one is, I'm just going to kind of read like the synopsis of it, and then we can go into more detail if necessary from another article. It's a really long article, so I just figured it'd be easier just to kind of paraphrase. So this one is about a family. It's the Alexander family from Germany, and Harold and Dagmar Alexander were a married couple living in Dresden, Germany, and they were part of a small religious cult, which at the time was known as the Lower Birth Society. The leader of the group claimed to be a prophet, voice of God, just that whole thing. And pretty much Harold ended up getting like super close with the leader. And after the leader died, Harold just kind of claimed that he was essentially inheriting the cult. Like he was kind of like the new prophet, even though nobody was really there to confirm it or anything. He just kind of said, hey, we were really close. That guy died. Now I'm the prophet. You all have to listen to me. Just one of those things. So in 1954, Harold and Dagmar have their second child. They have a son named Frank. Harold came out and stated that Frank is now the new prophet, and pretty much everything that Frank says has to be taken as the word of God and is like the new law. And it pretty much has to be the entire cult and his family pretty much just have to obey whatever Frank says now. And he had an older sister, Marina, and two younger sisters, Sabina and Petra. So fast forward, Frank becomes a teenager, and that's when things get a little more weird than they already were. So just keep in mind, Frank is this child who's now a teenager that is still being treated as the prophet of this Lower Birth Society, which is a religious cult. And so what happened when Frank got older is he kind of started, just as a teenage boy, he kind of starts having like interest and like different feelings and kind of like wanting to, just became interested in sex pretty much. So he basically came out and said that having sex with someone outside of their own family is impure and blasphemous. And he ordered that his family only has intercourse with each other, which included his mother and his sisters. And that means like Frank banging his mom and his sisters, and their dad banging his mom and and his kids. Yeah. So, of course, because of the fact that he was basically declared the prophet, they all just said, all right, that's fine. This is just our way to kind of serve God because he's the voice of God, and this is what he says. So rumors within the cult, they kind of began to spread just about pretty much like the banging of the mom and the banging of the kids. So rumors are kind of going around. Police actually begin to investigate, and once like the heat kind of fucking turns up, the family just packs up and they move to the Canary Islands. So there they basically lived a private life. Their neighbors didn't really know about them except for the fact that they would just be like loudly playing organ music during the day and night because the dad played an organ. So obviously at this point they're not part of the cult anymore, but even though that they left the cult, the dad pretty much kind of like turned his own family into the cult. So they would basically still have to do what Frank says, he's still the voice of God, blah, blah, blah. But he's not talking about anybody, or he's not influencing anybody else other than the immediate family. So by December of 1970, the family had been in the Canary Islands for about 10 months. And on the 22nd of December, Sabina was working as a cook at the mansion of a doctor. The doctor was surprised by when the doorbell rang one day and Harold and Frank arrived at his house and they appeared to be just covered in mud. They asked if Sabina could come outside so they can speak to her. And so she did, of course. And the doctor was kind of standing away in earshot. And he overheard them saying to the daughter, Sabina, we wanted you to know at once that Frank and I have just finished killing your mother and your sisters. And, hearing that, you'd be like, holy shit, this is fucking crazy. But her only response was, I'm sure you've done what was necessary. So Harold then noticed the doctor was there and turned to him and admitted, you overheard. We've killed my wife and other daughters. It was the hour of killing. So the doctor told the remaining members of the family, just, hang out on the patio. And then he ran inside to call the police. So the police took Harold and Frank into custody. And once they entered the apartment, Harold and Frank's apartment, they pretty much just saw like this terribly bloody mess of a scene. And it says blood was splattered everywhere. In the living room were the corpses of Marina and Petra. Their breasts and genitals were cut out and nailed to the wall. Dagmar had been found in the bedroom and suffered the same grisly fate as her daughters. Upon questioning, Frank claimed that he murdered his mother with a clothes hanger, first because she looked at me wrong, and upon seeing the bloodshed, Harold claimed it was the hour of killing, and then he began playing the organ loudly while his son pretty much killed his mother and then moved over and slaughtered the daughters.
Jeez.
And I'm just like picturing this, like this kid is basically just bashing this woman's head in with a clothes hanger, and the dad is just eerily playing this fucking organ. Just as he was killing the mom, the dad. This was in 1970, I think it said.
Holy shit.
Oh, wow. I thought this was like 1800s.
No, yeah, it happened in the 70s. And I guess
Jim Rockford was not on the case.
Right.
Right.
So as he was killing the mom, the dad basically went in and told the daughters, like, I forget what he said, like, or it's the hour of killing. So they basically just got down and got on the ground and just kind of waited for Frank to come over and do what they had to do. And their whole thing was like, it's fine if this happens because, this is our ticket to heaven. Now we're going to go to heaven pretty much by letting him do this. So both the father and son claim that the women of the family knew and accepted their roles in the foretold hour of killing. And Frank had stated over the years that this could pretty much come at any moment, and the family basically needed to be ready and, for the time that he would state it's the hour of killing. And then they were supposed to just do what they did and let him kill them. And I don't know if it was a guarantee that the dad was going to be playing the organ, but, that was just a bonus, I guess. And the whole time, like, even during like the arrests and everything, like there was no remorse. It was just like, no, this is just something that we were going to do. And it's a good thing because I sent them to heaven. So both Frank and his father were deemed unfit to stand trial due to mental health issues. And they were sent to a psychiatric hospital to remain there pretty much for the rest of their life. Sabina changed her name and ended up living with a coven, and her whereabouts are unknown. And I actually saw in another article, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was in the 90s that Frank and his dad were actually able to escape that asylum, and they've never been found. So there's, as far as anyone knows, they're still alive, but they're just not accounted for. So
That's great to know.
Yeah. What was the person's first name again?
The dad was Harold and the son was Frank.
What was her last name?
Alexander.
Okay.
And let me see. It says, I wanted to see if that was when it happened, was the 90s.
I was just trying to. Is there any photos
Yeah.
of these people?
They're
Okay.
like old black and white.
I look up Frank Alexander and I see it comes up with Tupac's bodyguard.
Yeah, not him.
Not the. same
Yeah,
guy.
it says Harold and Frank were admitted to Madrid Penitentiary Psychiatric Assistance Center, but in 1990 they managed to escape, and even Interpol issued a search and arrest warrant. No luck, they both disappeared. And today, if still alive, Harold would be 91 and Frank would be 66.
I mean, yeah, I think the dad's probably a goner, but
Yeah, COVID got him.
yeah,
But
The son could be still alive easily.
yeah,
yeah.
crazy.
I just think the creepiest part is like the dad literally was like, "Hey, Frank said it's time to die," and everybody was like, "All right," and he was like, "Oh, you want music?" I don't know why that's just like the weirdest fucking part. Like
I think
even
I've
the
heard
fact
this story before, but yeah, because I remember like hearing about a guy playing an organ while
I wonder if you're getting mixed up, John. I don't know, maybe you're not, but you know what made me think of this was that story of that guy that killed his entire family. And we've never done the story before. I should send it to one of you guys. I can't think of his name right now, but it happened like around 71, 72, somewhere around there. He killed his family, kids, mother in the attic, wife, all them, left the house, left the bodies rotting in the house for like 4 days, 5 days. And when the cops got there, it was a big mansion. He had organ music playing throughout an intercom system that, actually went throughout the entire house.
John List.
And yeah, I think that's him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guy with
He-
glasses.
yeah, he was on Unsolved.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
That stories. I mean, can you imagine those cops walking in there, seeing those dead bodies and hearing that music?
well, and the only reason that the cops ended up coming to the house was because the newspapers were piling up on the doorstep.
Right.
So
Right.
and
So the neighbors
were-
got
worried.
got concerned. But that's just. I mean, that's weird.
Yeah, and they think that guy they caught him though, didn't they?
Yeah, they caught him. He died in prison. I think 15 years ago.
Yeah, I remember. Because they found him. Died. Francis Medical Center, Trenton, New Jersey, 2008. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I definitely remember that story.
I just always think of that mansion. The mansion burned down like 2 years later. It was an old mansion, and it was like way off the back. It was off the road. You could see it off the road, but it was like way back. And they said it was a very expensive, nice mansion, and he just couldn't afford it and was going bankrupt. And I guess he just decided to kill his whole family and just start a new life.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to jump off in the subject, but you mentioned the organ music. It just made me think of that story.
yeah.
So
Maybe that's
it is
what I remember.
it is off topic, but did you see that dude that created a fake SpaceX job offer basically to show his parents, and I guess when they found out that it wasn't real, he just dismembered them.
Oof.
Okay.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah. That's the third story in the last 2 weeks that I saw about somebody getting dismembered.
It's
Well, not only that, but you think about your parents, you're in the hospital, in your little baby bed, and your parents are looking down at you, like, oh, this baby's so perfect, he's gonna change the world. Cutscene, it's just hacking him in pieces.
yeah. Right.
Jeez.
Isn't that crazy? It's just how someone can do that to their parents. I mean, it's just it's unbelievable. And we can do it to anybody, but I mean, especially your parents.
It's a lot of fucking work.
Amongst other things, I guess. But
Yeah, and messy too. Yeah.
All right, was that it, Buddha?
Yeah, that was. I got nothing else.
All right. Well, this one's an interesting one, and so I kind of stumbled down the old Unsolved Mysteries rabbit hole again. For anyone that wants to watch something better than our show or listen to something better than our show, the entire catalog of Unsolved Mysteries is on YouTube, and I think it's all 12 seasons. And
Is it the Dennis Farina stuff?
They have the Dennis Farina stuff as well, but I prefer the Robert Stack.
Yeah, Dennis
Me too.
Farina sucks.
Yeah, well, it was the same episodes with just Dennis Farina. It didn't make any sense. Anyway, this story came up and it really spooked me out. It just like when you ever hear like a ghost story or something, and I don't know if this ever happens to you guys, but like where you get like creeped out, where it was like such a spooky story that like, it kind of like sticks with you and you think about it all day.
A ghost story?
Yeah, like
You mean like Patrick Swayze?
No. All right. Anyway, all right. So this story here comes out of Texas, and this is from the 80s. And so in 1982, and this is from Unsolved Mysteries fandom, and so I'm going to be I'm going to paraphrase and read some stuff off of here. It might be word for word, but they did a pretty good job of categorizing this up. But in 1982, Sam and Judith Haney were one of several couples who purchased houses in the Newport area of Houston, Texas. A year later, Sam went about having a swimming pool put in his backyard. And what happened was, while they were digging or getting ready to dig the hole, or they maybe were in the early stages of it, an elderly man showed up at the door and wanted to report that to the homeowners that they were about to dig up human remains. And obviously, Sam Haney's like, how do you know this? And so turns out that the guy that showed up at the door used to be the person that would have to dig the graves years before, when the land was still a cemetery. So they decided to continue with the dig, and it was not long before Sam came upon two skeletons just where the elderly man said they were. There were two pine boxes, each with the indentation of a skeletal form. Sam immediately called the sheriff and the county coroner, who conducted an official exhumation. Most of the bones had turned to powder, but 25 fragments were found, some so brittle that they disintegrated when touched. 2 wedding rings were discovered on the exposed skeleton's fingers. Sam and Judith tried to determine the skeleton's identity. They contacted longtime resident Jasper Norton, who told them that he had dug the graves in the area when he was a teenager. Their home and several other homes had been built up upon an African-American cemetery called Black Hope. The deceased were mainly former slaves. The last burial occurred in 1939. Construction crews destroyed all traces of it during the building of the subdivision. Local researchers revealed that skeletons were of Charlie and Betty Thomas. They had been born into slavery and freed during the Civil War, and they died in the 1930s. Plagued by guilt for digging up the graves, Sam and Judith decided to rebury them. Despite this, the dead would not rest. And so this is where it gets kind of creepy. So one night, Judith discovered a clock glowing and sparking. When she checked, it was unplugged. Another night, Sam was working the night shift, so Judith was alone. After taking a shower, he heard the sliding glass door open and close. Then she heard someone ask, "What are you doing?" She assured it was Sam, but he was not there. The next morning, Judith went to get her red shoes, but they were not in the closet. Sam helped her look throughout the house, but they could not find them. Inexplicably, they turned up outside over Charlie and Betty's grave. They later learned that the same day, Betty's birthday, was the day that the shoes were taken out of the closet. Sam believes that this was Charlie giving his wife a birthday present. So, let's see here. A dozen of their neighbors also reported lights, televisions, faucets turning on and off. Many heard unearthly sounds, saw supernatural apparitions. Ben and Jean Williams moved in the same subdivision around that time as Sam and Judith. Shortly after Jean noticed her plants kept dying, she reported that sinkholes appeared in the unmistakable shape of coffins near their flower beds. They would fill them in only to have them reappear a few days later. Ben and Jean noticed also strange marking on the trees near the sinkholes. An arrow pointed toward the ground. Beneath it were 2 horizontal slash marks. A longtime resident told Ben and Jean that he had marked the tree. He said that he had done so because his 2 sisters were buried beneath it. Ben and Jean felt guilty for practically desecrating their graves. Ben and Jean soon began to experience also phenomenon. Random shadows slid along their walls, accompanied by a putrid smell. Their granddaughter, who lived with them, reported that during like the summertime, it was really, really hot outside. She'd walk into freezing cold pockets of air. It would be very, very chilly, and you'd have this feeling of foreboding. Carl recalled other strange incidents in the house. The toilets used to flush on their own as the water went down. I could hear what almost was like conversations. You could hear people murmuring to themselves. It was a presence or spirit or something that wanted to be heard, wanted me to know that wanted to know that it was there. Let's see. Okay. So this is where it gets even worse. So the Ben and Jean, their problems persisted, and so they decided to actually fight back legally against the contractors. Initially, a jury awarded them $142,000 for mental anguish. However, a judge decided to ruled that the developer was not responsible, reversed it, and then the couple was forced to pay out $50,000 in court costs back to the builder. Which then caused them to file for bankruptcy. So their bad luck just kept spinning. So this is where it gets even creepier. They ended up having to file for bankruptcy. Ben and Jean followed with legal action, but the developers wanted proof that the cemetery had even existed. Jean started, basically said, well, fine. They want to see bones. I'll show them bones. She started digging up her backyard for remains. However, she soon fell ill, so her daughter Tina volunteered to finish the job. After about a half an hour, Tina began to feel dizzy. She lay down on the couch, but continued to feel worse. Ben, her father, then called 911, and she was rushed to the hospital. She suffered a massive heart attack and tragically died 2 days later. She was only 30 years old. Jean believes that her death was also caused by supernatural forces. What else was there? They had family members, like 6 or so family members, get serious cancer, 3 of which died within the time that they were dealing with all of these issues. Ben and Jean ended up losing their entire investment and escaped to Montana later to move back into another subdivision in Texas. However, back in their old one, none of the current residents have reported any paranormal activity. No one has ever been able to explain what happened to the Williams or the Haneys. So, it turns out that these houses and these developers built upon an old cemetery. I just can't believe that that land was not protected. You know what I mean?
You mean just because it was a cemetery?
Right. I mean, how could someone even get zoning privileges to build upon that?
Well,
I mean, because they don't give a shit. That's the same way they built Garfield City View on a dump.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, you would think that there would be a little bit more stricter regulation around, where.
Well, it's the same reason. Why did they build apartment buildings on near the fucking beach where it's eroding, or why do they build certain shit on marshland? It's just because money fucking talks.
And not only that, but too, you got to remember, especially back in the day, I mean, there were little cemeteries all over the place. There were also a lot of people which again, not in this particular case, but people used to bury their loved ones in their backyards way back in the days,
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, but Yeah.
I mean, depending on how big the cemetery was. I mean, it might have only have been 20 graves in there or something. But you're right. I get what you're saying. 100% what you're saying. How could it happen? My question is, you hear these stories, but why did it not affect the people that moved in there after? Why did it only affect those first people? And then, the other people are like, well, we don't have any problems here. That's because the houses are still built on the grave or on the cemetery site.
Right. And that's the thing is like, is it a string of bad luck, or is it because these people were the first people to, essentially desecrate these graves?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's a string of bad luck, or do you think do you think that there's something unexplainable about all this?
My question was, were they the first owners? Like, were these houses just built and they bought them and moved in? Okay,
Yes.
so they were brand spanking new.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, my thought process on it. I'm really always gonna always side on the fact that I think it just happened to be really horrible bad luck. I mean, the woman dying at 30 years old of a massive heart attack. I mean, 16-year-olds die of massive heart attacks. So, she overexerted herself and she had a heart attack. I mean, it's bad luck. It's horrible, but, that part there, I mean, all the other stuff that they explained, they talked about, the electronics going off and, I mean, I don't know. That's, my stance on it.
Yeah.
I have to see it to believe it.
I think she had high levels or overexposure of high levels of radon.
I mean, it's a possibility, but didn't they test for that back then too?
Well, yeah, but it don't fucking matter. All they do is stick a fucking pipe in the ground and go, there you go, mitigated.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I mean, these stories always kind of like creep me out. And so, listening to it, and hearing all this stuff, I always kind of believe in this stuff. And so, I just think that there's something going on here that can't be explained in the physical world. But
even like an Indian burial ground.
Yeah,
I was just going to mention that. Yep, you hear about that.
Why is it got to be Indian?
Well, no, but like, okay, so would you buy a house that you knew was built on top of graves?
Fuck no, that's bad juju.
Yeah,
exactly. So do you think that this is do you think this is a case of bad juju?
If it's buried on white people burial ground, they probably fucking deserved it. So no. If it was buried like on an Indian burial ground, chances are they were fucking slaughtered, and that's bad juju.
I would, I take the whole supernatural aspect out of it completely on my end of it, because I don't believe in any of that stuff, but I would not buy a house regardless of what race was buried there, for the simple fact that it just would feel so fucking disrespectful just to live on a house where there's, that was built on top of,
I'm with you
final
on
resting
that.
places.
Like, I don't think I could ever, I mean, it's weird just even being like, it's weird even being in like the same room where like somebody's passed away in. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you go to the,
Yeah,
Weird.
but that's only if you know. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have you been in somebody's house or a building or anywhere that somebody probably died and you just don't know about it because you don't
Right.
think about it? Well, you don't know about it for one. Therefore, you don't think about it. But I mean, dude, how many things have been developed that have been in like somewhat of a common area, even throughout generations, that people have probably been buried in and you just never knew.
right.
Right. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Although that being said, generally I thought if it's like a burial ground kind of thing, I thought they are generally protected, and if they're not, I believe they are dug up and then reburied somewhere else. If I'm not mistaken, I thought that was more of the common practice.
Yeah.
So those houses were built, probably in the 70s then?
This would happen around 82. So yeah, probably late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. So you would think even back then, I mean, that's not that long ago, that you would think that they would have some kind of, like you were saying, John, some kind of regulations or laws, stopping that from happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you also got to factor in if it's a development and we're talking 70s. I mean, the mob was still rampant back then. They
Plus,
ran all the unions, all the building projects. I mean, dude, they did whatever the fuck they
That's
wanted.
true. Yeah, that's true.
I believe they also said, like I said, there was a lot of these people were former slaves, and so they didn't have money for like headstones and whatnot. So there was like little markings and whatnot, and so maybe by that point there was just not a whole lot of markers or anything to signify that, and so the land was purchased and they didn't know. But then again, maybe they did know. So it's hard to say.
Right.
I mean, like they
At
said,
the end of the day,
the
people
one
want to make the
story.
dollar.
Go ahead. Sorry.
At the end of the day, people want to make that dollar. So
Yeah, because even they said like the tree was marked where 2 lines on it to symbolize somebody was buried. Their siblings were buried there or whatnot. They said at the end. So
does it weird you out if there's like a pile of dead animals that you would dig up?
no, I don't think. Yeah, it's no, probably not.
So what's the difference?
I mean, consciousness. Well, and I mean, I'm not saying that animals are not conscious. I guess like, reason. So maybe something where like humans can rationalize things, whereas animals are more instinctual.
Monkeys can be taught to use currency, and that's an animal technically.
Really?
Yeah.
Where'd you see this?
I actually just saw. It was on like one of those weird fact pages. They gave them. I don't remember what it was, like silver tokens or something like that, and the monkeys would actually keep them. So they taught them to understand that they can trade those tokens for treats, and it turned out that they would actually save them up to get the treats that they liked best, and then they would hand them over for those, and then they started giving them to other monkeys in exchange for sex, and that's when I knew they were just like me.
Well, all right. Oh man,
I did see that video where they taught dogs to drive. You ever see that one?
Yeah, from the UK.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Like they weren't driving on the streets or anything, but they were just driving around a circle track. But I mean, still,
it was a stick shift too.
I know.
How'd they shift?
Fucking paw.
Yeah.
The paw, the hoof.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's what I got for tonight. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think you guys ready to close this down for tonight?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm good.
New year, new show. Same old shit, I guess.
At least we made it through without swearing.
Yep.
Well, that and we didn't play any. Yeah. So, but
I know I swore.
well, yeah. Let's get this going here. Come on now. All right. Well, we'll try to do this again next Thursday. And I'm gonna try and keep bringing the weird and creepy stuff still. So
Do it.
that was
And I will bring the strange animal facts about soliciting sex.
very well. But yeah, tune in next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Stay warm, everybody. It's cold outside up here in Ohio, but
Finally.
yeah.
Why are you bitching? It's gonna be cold till May now.
I'm just saying, stay warm. That's all.
No, not you. I'm talking about Dan bitching about it. Oh, finally got the cold.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for
I like
Dan
it being
Rady,
warm in January. Go ahead.
for Dan Rady, Steve Gibson. Who else we got out there? Everybody in the Type 3 TV. Larry Simpson. We're gonna give you the shout out tonight. This is Type 3 TV from the Mistake on the Way. Say goodnight, everybody.